Dear friends, watch Trump sitting in the White House, surrounded by CEOs of American companies, speaking like an earthly god, issuing tariffs, threats, and orders, as if the world will bend forever. But history has a cruel habit. It reminds every superpower that nothing is permanent. Not Rome, not Britain, not America. And while Trump roars in Washington, ghost trains are moving in Afghanistan. President Putin of Russia is stitching new energy empires. And Modi is signing deals that kill the dollar without firing a shot. The world is changing, but the West is still performing. Friends, what I am about to tell you will change how you see the next decade of your life. A few days ago, something happened in New Delhi, India, that the Western media barely covered. Putin and Modi didn't just shake hands. They signed the death warrant for dollar dominance. $100 billion in oil deals. Not a single American dollar changed hands. Only rupees and rubles. And here's what they're not telling you, the Western media. This isn't just about oil. While you're watching the news cycle spin, ghost trains started rolling through Afghanistan. Yes, Afghanistan. Diesel shipments from Russia through Iran into Taliban-controlled territory, heading south to fuel India's booming economy. The same mountains where Soviet tanks burned 40 years ago are now the altares of a new empire. And the most shocking part, Pakistan is being sidelined from the map, not by war, but by irrelevance. I'm going to show you the hidden architecture of a world order that's already here. You'll discover why Asia's growth is outpacing the West 3-1. How Putin turned international isolation into a geopolitical masterpiece. Why Trump's tariff threats are accelerating America's decline. And most critically, what this means for your money, your job, and your country's future. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is confirmed by Asian Development Bank, the IMF, and the trade data. Anyone can verify. The shift is happening, whether the West admits it or not. The question is, are you ready to see it? Let's see the numbers which don't lie. Let me give you the numbers. And they don't want you to focus on. December 10th, 2025, the Asian Development Bank released projections that should have dominated every news cycle. Asia will grow at 5.1% in 2025 and 26. India is hitting 7.2% annual growth, with second quarter numbers at a staggering 8.2%, top in the world. These aren't predictions anymore. This is momentum. Compare that to Europe's anemic growth, America's debt spiral, and you start to see the picture. But it goes deeper. What does the data say? BRICS nations now control 45% of global GDP. Think about that. In the year 2000, it was just 20%. In one generation, the balance of economic power has fundamentally shifted. Add in population, 46% of humanity lives in BRICS nations. When we talk about the global economy, we are no longer talking about New York and London. We are talking about Shanghai, China, Mumbai, India, and Moscow. This isn't happening by accident. This is the result of strategic vision by leaders who refused to play by rules written in Washington. While the West was focused on culture wars and political theater, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin were building infrastructure, real physical connections that move goods, energy, and wealth. The SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Bank, just launched with 2 billion in Chinese capital and 10 billion in infrastructure loans. No World Bank conditions, no IMF structural adjustments, no hypocritical lectures about human rights. Just money for roads, ports, and railways that connects half the world's population. This is what power looks like in the 21st century. No aircraft carriers, no sanctions, just infrastructure. Let's see about Putin's masterstroke, the ghost trains. Now, let me show you the move that nobody saw coming. Amazing. Afghanistan. For 40 years, it has been the graveyard of empires. The Soviets left in defeat. America left in chaos. But Putin saw something everyone else missed. And what was that? Opportunity. In November 2025, the first Russian diesel shipment arrived in Herat, Afghanistan, a city in Afghanistan, via Iranian railways. 5,000 tons. This isn't symbolic. This is the beginning of a transportation corridor that could move 8 to 15 million tons per year. Russia isn't conquering Afghanistan. They are using it as a highway. Here's the genius of it. Every Western sanctions package assumes Russia needs just European markets. Cut them off from the West and they collapse, right? No, wrong. Putin simply turned south. The same railway infrastructure that the Soviets built decades ago is now being revived. But this time, not for tanks, but for trade. Russia sends diesel through Iran into Afghanistan. From there, it flows to India, bypassing Pakistan. Moscow recognized the Taliban government in July 2025, flipping the Cold War enemies to pragmatic partners. Why? Because Taliban want stability and money, revenue. Russia wants sanctions-proof trade routes. It's a marriage of convenience that's reshaping Central Asian geopolitics. And now, India is the ultimate customer. That $100 billion rupee oil deal isn't just trade diversification. It's India's signaling to the world, we will buy energy from whoever offers the best terms, regardless of what Washington thinks. India's refineries are processing Russian crude at a discount and then selling refined products to Europe at a markup. Delhi is playing both sides and winning. The real shock, this is just the beginning. Yes, China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, Russia's energy corridors, and Iran's railway networks are converging into what analysts are calling the Eurasian Energy Quad. It's the new Silk Road, but this time it runs on diesel fuel and cryptocurrency transactions that bypass the SWIFT banking system entirely. The West spent 20 years trying to isolate Russia. Putin responded by building an entirely new trade network. That's not defeat, that's adaptation. Now let's talk about another very interesting development. It's China's Arctic ambition. The polar Silk Road. While everyone was watching Ukraine, China made a move that changes everything about global shipping. The Istanbul Bridge, a Chinese container ship, just completed a voyage through the Northern Sea route in 20 days. That same journey through the Suez Canal takes 40 days, half now. Beijing is calling this a major geostrategic breakthrough, and they're right. Climate change is opening Arctic shipping lanes that were impossible for most of human history. China is claiming them, not with military force, but with commercial shipping and infrastructure investment. They are calling it a polar Silk Road, and it gives them a route to Europe that bypasses every traditional choke point, the Suez Canal, the Strait of Malacca, the South China Sea. On land, China is 60% finished building a road through the Afghan Corridor. The Afghan Corridor in part of Afghanistan that connects Afghanistan and China. That narrow Afghan strip that connects China to Tajikistan. This gives Beijing direct land access to Central Asian mineral wealth and a backdoor route to Europe that doesn't depend on maritime security. India is following the same playbook. They reopened their embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan, committed $500 million in aid, and are building what they call pragmatic ties with the Taliban. This isn't about ideology. This is about access to resources and markets. The pattern is clear. The global south is building connectivity, while the west is building walls. One strategy leads to growth. The other leads to isolation. Dear friends, let's talk about Pakistan tragedy, and you'll understand when I tell you why I'm saying it Pakistan tragedy. It's a warning to the world. The cautionary tale in all of this, Pakistan. If we see the papers, the numbers look okay. But I can tell you with more clarity. The Asian Development Bank predicts 3.2% growth. And IMF tranche just arrived, $1.3 billion. But anyone paying attention knows the reality is far darker. Pakistan is hemorrhaging $4 million per day in lost exports because of border chaos with Afghanistan. Oranges, quinoa, or rotting at checkpoints, while India's agricultural exports are breaking records. Here's the brutal truth that economists won't tell you. You can have the best economic theory in the world, the smartest advisors on paper with coat and ties, the most generous loans, and none of it matters if you don't have stability. Stability. Pakistan has built strategic assets over 3-4 generations: ports, military capability, geopolitical positioning. But internal chaos is destroying value faster than any reform can create it. Pakistan's high population growth at about 2% acts like a powerful brake on the economy. Even with a headline GDP growth of, projected 3%, the gains are diluted across millions of new citizens each year. The result is negligible growth in income per person, which means the country's real economic progress is being neutralized by its own demographics. The IMF and Western financial institutions face a dilemma. They can't let Pakistan collapse because that would trigger a fire scale of strategic assets that took decades to build. I don't want to say more than that. You understand? Imagine Gwadar Port, imagine military infrastructure, imagine land and resources being liquidated at pennies on the dollar. The West understands Pakistan's geographic importance. So they keep providing just enough support to prevent collapse, but never enough to enable a real transformation. This is the trap of instability. No amount of foreign investment, no economic model, no structural adjustment program can overcome the fundamental problems. When the rules change overnight, when capital flees, when law and order disintegrates, prosperity becomes impossible. India's 7.2% growth is the counterpoint. It's not because Indians are inherently better at economics. It's not. It's because they have maintained enough political stability and institutional continuity to allow long-term investments and planning. That's the difference between stagnation and transformation. Stagnation and transformation. Pakistan's tragedy is a warning. All the geopolitical opportunity in the world means nothing if you can't create the internal conditions for growth. Let's talk about West's self-inflicted wound. I'll explain in just a couple of minutes. It's uncomfortable truth about the West's decline. It is entirely self-inflicted. Europe is facing a demographic collapse. Birth rates are plummeting. Farms need workers. Factories need labor. Hospitals need staff. The solution is obvious: immigration. When you don't have people, what you should do? Immigration. But far-right politics and cultural fear have shut the door. God or culture, they say, while their economies slowly suffocate from labor shortages. This is the contradiction eating the West from within. They need what they refuse to accept. Then there's Trump's rhetoric. We let China and India grow fat on our generosity. He is threatening 50% tariffs on Asian imports, as if economic growth is a zero-sum game that America lost through kindness. This is historical revisionism at its most absurd. The West set the rules of global trade, opened markets, and encouraged offshoring to maximize corporate profits. Now that Asian nations have learned to play the game and win, suddenly the rules are unfair. The irony is profound. Every sanctions package, every tariff threat, every attempt to isolate competitors is forcing the global south to build parallel systems. The BRICS currency initiatives, the alternative banking systems, the cryptocurrency corridors. These aren't happening despite Western pressure. They are happening because of it. The West is accelerating its own obsolescence through arrogance. They had the chance to adapt, to integrate, to lead the transition to a multipolar world on favorable terms. Instead, they choose walls, sanctions, and nostalgia for a unipolar moment that ended a decade ago. This is decline by design, and the architect is Western pride. The global South's rise is not a prediction. It's not a trend. It's a reality confirmed by every major financial institution, invisible in trade flows, infrastructure projects, and diplomatic realignments happening right now. India is accelerating. China is connecting continents. Russia is turning isolation into innovation. The ghost trains rolling through Afghanistan aren't just carrying diesel, they are carrying the future. Pakistan's chaos is a warning. Instability will cost you everything your grandparents built. You can have all the natural resources, all the strategic location, all the potential in the world, and still lose everything if you can't create the conditions for stability and growth. But here's the thing. The West can still pivot, not to dominance. That era is over. But to partnership. They need to drop the arrogance and learn from the pragmatic approach of the global South. Open the gates to the talent you desperately need. Join the infrastructure projects instead of sanctioning them. Recognize that a multipolar world doesn't mean Western decline. It means Western adaptation. Trade must connect, not control. Humility opens door that arrogance will always slam shut. The rupee-ruble oil deal, the Afghan diesel corridor, the Arctic shipping lanes, they aren't threats to ordinary people. They are opportunities. Cheaper energy, more trade routes, greater competition that drives down costs and increases choices. The only people threatened by this shift are those whose power depended on monopolizing the old systems. So here's my question to you. Will the global South prevail? Can the West learn? What does this mean for your country, your industry, your investments? Please drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if I am missing something. Challenge my analysis. This conversation is just beginning. And I want to hear from people living this reality in India, Pakistan, Africa, Latin America, China, Russia, and in the West too. If this video gave you a new perspective, hit that like button, subscribe for more analysis that cuts through the noise and shows you the real architecture of power in our changing world. The silent takeover isn't coming. It's already here. The only question is, are you ready to navigate it? Thank you for your time. See you in the next one.